Hi everybody, it's Meg, no longer of Walking Moose because the blog is closed, but that's fine because to every time there is a season. I'm going to take these annoying specs off because they always do a bad glare thing whenever I am trying to film a video. So maybe in the winter that'll get a little better. Okay, today we are going to talk about Mary Roberts Rinehart. We're going to do a deep dive into Mary Roberts Rinehart. That sounded kind of dirty. So, scratch that. Let's say we will go in depth to discuss the work of mystery novelist Mary Roberts Rinehart. But before we do, I thought I would do something a little bit fun, try to do fun things, I'm fun. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a highball cocktail. And we're gonna do this in relation to one of the books, so let me just get started. So for a highball cocktail, now let me also say that I don't really know the YouTube rules. I don't know if you can make a cocktail on TV or on YouTube. God damn, I'm old. Not TV, we're on YouTube. So here's what we're gonna do. Thank you for Moose to illuminate that. All right, first thing you need for a highball cocktail is you're gonna have a highball glass. It's usually like a short little stubby glass. This isn't a really fancy one, but I've had it for years and I love it. And then you've got ice. So then, and there's different types of highball cocktails, because I know that some of you guys will say that's not a highball, but this is the highball cocktail that I know. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take ginger ale. I don't know if I can show exactly who made this ginger ale, but you're gonna put the ginger ale in, okay? And then you are going to add an ounce of whiskey. And whiskey is one of those things where it's kind of dealer's choice on that. So I've got my 1 ounce of whiskey in here. I poured it. Again, I don't know if I can reveal who made the whiskey. I'm going to put it in there. And I'm going to stir it up with my teaspoon. I used to have a swiveler, but God knows where that is. All right, so now we have our highball cocktail. Let's take a sip. Yummy. Made that a little strong. I think I need some more ginger ale. Okay, I'll pour myself a little more ginger ale so I don't get soused, because I think that would make for a poor in-depth discussion if I was soused. All right, so all those things are taken care of. Now, let's talk about Mary Roberts Rinehart. Now, if you have not heard of Mary Roberts Rinehart specifically, but you do read mysteries, then you're probably familiar with the trope that she is credited with originating. And that trope is called the had I but known. So let me give you an example. Had I but known Dorothea was allergic to strawberries, I would have been shocked when she ate the strawberry cake. Had I but known the bridge was going to wash out, I wouldn't have recommended the Girl Scout troop go across the bridge. That was a cheap shot. I like Girl Scouts, I do. I don't want them to drown. So anyway, that is the trope that she is credited with originating, the had I but known. And Mary Roberts Rinehart is, I don't want to say obscure, but she's not as well known now as she used to be. And I just want to give you a few facts about her life. She started writing in 1903, and then her last book was published in 1953. So she wrote for a very long time. She was very prolific. She wrote mystery stories, romances, and plays. And I have read an example of all of them at least. And the romances are like, whatever. They're not my favorite. The mysteries are my favorite. I read one obscure part of a play of her. Actually, I think it was part of The Bat that I read, but it was so long ago, I can't even give it credence. I can't even talk about it because I have no opinion on it. I just don't remember it at all. Anyway, she started writing in 1903. She was married to a doctor, and the reason she started writing in 1903, and this is interesting, is because it was a big stock market crash, similar to the one in 1929, but it happened earlier, and they lost all their money. And so Marion was like, well, gee, I have to do something to supplement. So she started writing mystery stories. And again, she was very prolific. So she was married to this doctor. She actually became a war correspondent. She was a suffragette. She was a war correspondent in 1918, and she went overseas, and that was very fascinating. She was quite popular and charming and quite a little socialite. So at one point, she and her husband moved to Washington, D.C., and she was just the belle of the ball in DC when he was working for the Veterans Administration. I think it was in the 20s and 30s. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna have another drink. Sorry, it's getting parched. Okay. So she's a socialite, she's married to a doctor, and if you read a lot of her stories, you will kind of see that. We have a couple of characters. She never does a recurring character, she never does a running series, but we have a couple of female characters that are married to physicians, and you sort of get a little slice of that life, waiting up for him and him bringing his cases home and everything. So you can see a little bit that she put a little bit of her real life in there. After her husband died, she and one of her sons opened up their own publishing house. And she, I think she was an inspiration. There's two other things that I want to tell you about her, which I find very interesting. One of them was she was actually an attempted murder victim. She had a summer house, back in the day when people had summer homes. So she had a summer house, and there was a servant, a male servant, who had some mental issues. And I guess she just snapped her fingers a little bit one too many times for this guy, because he had a psychotic breakdown. He shot her with a gun. This was in the kitchen. He shot her with a gun, and then he grabbed a knife and just jumped on top of her, rah, 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 and trying to get her and everything like that. And the other servants came in, thank God, and they got him off. Now, sadly, this poor man, I mean, because he's got a psychotic breakdown, you don't want to go around and people, but at the same time, a little sympathy. He was probably having an extremely bad day. He killed himself the next day in the house. So anyway, that's a very sad story. Now, I found that a couple of places on the internet, and I want to say, disclaimer, you never can be sure if those internet stories are actually real. Let's just all remind ourselves of that in this day and age. So I found that story in about 3 places when I was researching her. So I'm pretty sure that there's a germ of truth in there. May not be completely 100%, but I just thought it was really interesting for this mystery writer to have gone through this. And the other thing that she did was, in the 40s, she gave an interview to, I think it was it Harper's Magazine, I think, about having breast cancer, which nobody had ever talked about. Women had not spoken about it. It was very taboo. And so she, being from the medical profession, really wanted to talk about it, and that was pretty groundbreaking. So Mary Roberts Rinehart, fantastic writer. If you can find her, I, of course, troll the used bookstores and everything, so I can usually find her. But I'm going to give you my personal recommendations to where, if you only read one of these books, except for one that I'm going to tell you about, then you'll get the whole Mary Roberts Rinehart thing. You'll get it. And you don't have to read any more, but hopefully you will want to read more. Okay, so the first one I want to tell you about is The Bat. The Bat. This has 3 books in it. Now, The Bat was, I think, her first big one. It was her first biggie. And The Bat is about, I'm going to give a few spoilers here, not too many, but just a few. So The Bat is about this older woman, and she is renting this summer house. Again, she's renting a summer house, and she's got a niece and a nephew, and weird things are happening in this summer house. All kinds of strange things are happening in the summer house. Like, they put something down, and the next day they find it, and it's moved someplace else, blah, blah, blah. And then in the meantime, we keep hearing about this master criminal. master criminal called the Bat. And the Bat is sneaking into people's homes, and the Bat is just this horrible person. And, you know, he's stealing things, and he's very treacherous and everything like that. The original title of the book, of the story, was called The Circular Staircase. So if you can find an old copy of The Circular Staircase, then you're probably reading The Bat. And if you're finding a copy of The Bat, you're probably reading The Circular Staircase. It's great. It's very atmospheric. She's really good with atmosphere. And, you know, kind of the creepiness of it and everything. So if you read The Bat and or The Circular Staircase, that'll get you through. That'll give you your Mary Roberts Rinehart fix. That'll give you the had I but known trope. And you'll get a sense of what the rest of the body of her work is like. One more sip. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out my personal faves because I want to tell you guys about these. Now, this first one is called The After House. And The After House is loosely based on a true crime mystery, something that actually happened. And it's about, The After House is about a murder on a boat. It's about a murder at sea on a boat. And it's based on an actual unsolved crime, the murder on the Herbert Fuller. So you can look that up. So the deal is with the Herbert Fuller was an axe murderer kills two people on a ship at sea, like a boat at sea. Now, it's not like a cruise ship. It's kind of a big yacht. And it's unsolved to this day. But when you read about it, when you read about the murder on the Herbert Fuller, I think you're going to come to the same conclusion that I did, which is it's not really unsolved. I mean, it's unsolved in that no one ever really paid for the crime, but there is a person on the Herbert Fuller who had exclusive opportunity. So it's very much like the Lizzie Borden case. Lizzie Borden, no, she was not convicted of that crime. They did not find her guilty of that crime, but come on. I think we all know what happened there. So The After House, about the boat, the axe murder on the boat, and there is an axe murder on the boat, is the only one that I would consider an outlier. This is the one, it's not a true mystery, in that when you get to the end and you find out exactly who the killer was and everything, I was a little disappointed because it wasn't a true mystery in that respect. And it's an outlier, but still though, it's a great read and it's short, it's small. I don't even know if you can find it. Look at this cover, this gorgeous cover. There were no blondes running around in nightgowns that I remember from the book, but the publisher clearly chose to put her on there. I don't know what she's doing. Okay, so The After House, fantastic, check it out. The next one I want to talk to you about is The Door. Can you see there's a glare? The Door. Now, The Door is about a nurse who gets murdered. And it's not a nurse working in the hospital. It's a nurse working for a private family. So she's this nurse, I believe her name is Sarah, and she gets murdered. And let me tell you, it is the most intricately, this is your fault, plotted mystery I've ever read. There's a pencil in it. Now, again, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I just want to tell you about this. So the night that she gets murdered, there's a question about, before she goes out, whether or not she's going to take the dogs. It's kind of a spur of the moment decision whether or not she's going to take the dogs for a walk. And so she ends up taking the dogs for a walk. And then they find this pencil. This is after she's killed. And they find this pencil, and I'm reading it the whole time thinking, that pencil, there's something up with that pencil. And when you get to the end and you figure out about the pencil, it's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Now, Mary is a very tried and true mystery author in that she doesn't pull those silly punches that Agatha Christie does. And I do love me some Aggie. I really do. But Aggie will often withhold a clue. Mary doesn't do that. She gives you everything. She gives you more than everything. She gives you so much detail, but you never know if it's a red herring or if it's real or whatever. So that was the door. That was fantastic. Then we're going to go with my personal favorite, The Red Lamp. This is the bomb. I love this story. I've reread it half a dozen times. I adore it. And let me tell you why. So this story, now first off, anybody who knows me or if you've watched any of my other videos, I love a ghost story. Give me a ghost story. I don't care about Bigfoot or UFOs or anything like that, but I love a good ghost story. And this is a great ghost story. So this is about a college professor. And again, he's in a summer house. He's in a summer house and he's by the bay with his wife and his niece. And his wife has a few sort of psychic tendencies. We think she's a little bit psychic, but she's trying to tamp that down. Anyway, they're out at this house because good old Uncle Horace has died. So Uncle Horace has died and he has this red lamp. And also Uncle Horace had congestive heart failure. So he's very wheezy. I'm gonna give you a wheeze. So they hear the wheeze and every now and then the red lamp comes on and there's sheep being killed in the countryside. There's weird stuff going all over the place. And you're reading it and the college professor is very, very skeptical, but he can't explain everything. And so watching his struggle with explaining everything is one of the best parts. About whether or not, because he tries to debunk some kind of things and they've got the mystery going again. This is a big had I but known also. All of hers are. Now, the last one I want to recommend is where the little highball comes in. And I can't find my copy, so I'm going to put right up here above my shoulder, I'm going to find a picture of the cover. But it's called The Great Mistake. And The Great Mistake is, I also think, one of the best books I've ever read. You're going to read it and you're going to go for a long time going, well, what's going on? Where's the mystery here and everything? But there is a mystery. And then when you get to the end and it's all unfolded, again, wonderfully done, beautifully done. But in The Great Mistake, they talk a lot about this place. And I'm not really sure it's a town, and I'm not really sure it's a suburb. It's just sort of a place where all of these very wealthy people live. Excuse me. Let me take another sip. All right, The Great Mistake. So it's this beautiful place. It's very idyllic. You've got women playing bridge. You've got men and women, trotting along on their horses in the afternoon and everything. And in that book, every other page, somebody is making a highball. They make highballs all the way through that book. Highball, highball, highball. Hi, Betty. Have you had a highball? No, Bob, but I think I'll go make one. I'm on my 4th. They're making highballs all over the place. And I didn't know what they were. I'm not a huge big drinker. I mean, I like my wine and I like some beer, but like whiskey and cocktails, I don't really know anything about it. So I had to look up what a highball was. And again, there's different variations of them. But every 3rd page, highball time, it's highball time. You can't live in this place without being addicted to highballs. But it's a lot of fun. The Great Mistake. And then when you get to the very end of the mystery, and it's a longer book, it's kind of a slow paced, all of hers are a little bit slow paced, you will really be amazed at all the clues that were right in front of you the whole time you went through the book and didn't even realize them. You didn't even know they were clues. At least I didn't, because I was concerned about the highballs apparently. Anyway, so those are my personal faves, my recommends for you. First one is going to be The Bat or The Circular Staircase. Then we've got The Outlier, The After House, about the axe murder. Remember to look up the murder on the Herbert Fuller. The Red Lamp, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Is it Uncle Horace or is it a person trying to be Uncle Horace? The Door, What's Up with the Pencil? What's up with the pencil? You'll be interested in that pencil. And then, of course, the great mistake. Well, that was my deep dive into Mary Roberts Rinehart. A little bit off the beaten path. A classic mystery, classic mystery mistress, if there ever was one. I am going to probably go and put this in the refrigerator for my husband because I can't drink it. I made it too strong. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much.